Let's get into it. Sold Not For Sale podcast. We got two clips for you guys today. One's a short one. It's of Jordan Peterson talking about universal basic income. And then another one is Joe Rogan and someone, I cannot say their last name, but his first name is Stavros. He's a comedian. He is dressed like an Italian mobster, just a straight up sweatsuit. I like the way he's dressed. I like the way he acts, the way he thinks. He's a really funny comedian. But both clips are about universal basic income and the thoughts on that. Let's get into the first clip with Jordan Peterson, and then we'll play another one after that.
The idea that the solution is a basic income is not a good idea, because I think the problem is deeper than that. I don't think the fundamental problem is that people don't have enough money. I think the fundamental problem is that human beings in some sense are beasts of burden. And if they're not provided with a place where they can accept social responsibility, social and individual responsibility in an honorable manner, they degenerate and die. That's the opiate crisis in the West right now. Like men who are men don't need money. They need function. And we've got a problem. One of the problems is, for example, here's an ugly stat. I think I told you this once before. It's illegal to induct anyone into the armed forces if they have an IQ of less than 83. And the reason for that is the armed forces, despite having every reason to draw the contradictory conclusion, has decided that there isn't a single thing that you can be trained to do in the military if you have an IQ of less than 83 that isn't positively counterproductive. That's 10% of the population. And we're producing a culture that's very cognitively complex. Like, what the hell are you going to do if you can't use a computer? Like, if you can use a computer, you're at least in the game. If you can really use one, you're hyper powerful. If you're not literate enough to use a computer, you're at zero. 10% of the population. The conservatives say, well, there's a job for everyone if they just worked hard enough. It's like, no, and increasingly no. And the liberals say, well, everyone's basically the same and you can train anyone to do anything. It's like, no, you can't.
Yeah.
I want to go back to the inequality point here, because if you look at this biologically, actually, I think it reveals a lot. Why are we know from careful study that people are motivated by the degree of inequality more than they are the absolute level of well-being that they have. And there's a very good, it's tragic, but a very good evolutionary reason for this, which is if you are working on some piece of land and your neighbor has the adjacent piece of land and they're doing twice as well as you, it's because they know something you don't, right? And so becoming focused on what they're doing that you're not doing is a rational thing to spend your time on, so you can figure out what it is that they know that you don't. In the modern environment, this is a catastrophe, because who are your neighbors? Well, you've got some box sitting on the wall of your living room that has a totally artificial portrait of other people who may be much wealthier than you, and it's broadcasting in as if you're looking in their window, right, in the adjacent house. And so you think, you're being triggered to think that you're doing something wrong that you might fix, when in fact the solution may not be, first of all, the person on the other side of that screen may not be for real, right. But even if they are, they're not living in the same environment as you. The technology is interfacing with our brains badly. But so we have the perception of massive inequality. Economically, we do have massive inequality. You're arguing that the solution to this involves some sort of massive redistribution.
Well, as solution. I wouldn't argue,
solution. But nonetheless, redistribution is wildly unpopular for various reasons. And so what we've got now is a situation, this is speculative, but what's really happening is that austerity is being used as a threat to keep people who would otherwise rebel against the inequality in line. And my fear about this is that this is exactly the conditions that are going to trigger that tribal population against population mayhem that we were talking about at the beginning of this conversation. That when people...
That could be very, very true. I want to focus on what Jordan Peterson had to say. I just let that run a little long just because Brett has an odd way of being a little captivating. I don't know what it is. He's like an interesting teacher. But what Jordan Peterson was saying, here's the thing though. People really do need money. They really, really do. You could talk to a lot of people And, you know, my wealthy friends will be like, oh, you know, you make enough money and it's, you realize money's not the thing. And when you're really poor or, you know, just having to work paycheck to paycheck, you do know that money is the solver. And, you know, a wealthy person will tell you, no, that won't solve everything for you. But someone who's in the position of needing money, they'll be like, yes, but it'll solve a list of things that I have going on in my life that are causing me constant stress that I go to sleep with, I toss and turn with, I wake up with, I go to work with. So people really do need money. And then another thing he said, but they also need purpose. And that's very true. They do need purpose, right? So universal basic income could take away purpose, but it can also free you up from stress to give you the time to find that purpose. Now, are most people going to do that? I don't know. I'm going to let you know my situation because I've had to deal with this directly in the form of welfare and then also not knowing how to use computers like Jordan Peterson was talking about and learning how to do all of that. So, you know, the left feels like you could teach anybody to do anything. And I kind of fall in that category. I kind of do think if you work hard enough, there are things that you can learn. Now, maybe my IQ is higher than I think it is. Could be. I do not know. But, yeah, I'll let you know my situation in a second. Let's move on to the next clip. Jordan Peterson, Joe Rogan talking with Stavros. This guy is a trip.
They took the mushrooms away?
Well, you're filled with crime now. You got like Asheville. Duncan was telling me has like a crazy high crime rate.
Really?
Yeah.
I
I've
haven't
ever
been there
imagined
for 10 years, but it felt like a
What's
real
the
hippie
crime
town.
rate of Asheville, North Carolina?
A lot of fucking
That's a lot of
wind
people.
chimes are getting stolen.
All their money went away during the pandemic.
Right,
you know,
right,
I would
right.
imagine that ramped up crime everywhere. You know,
Yeah.
Everybody's forced to not work. Also, it's a small town. You know, it's not
It's
not
pretty
like
small.
a big robust town that's backed up by a big industry or anything like that.
Well, are those people like service workers? Because I had friends in New York who were like, they were on unemployment and they were like, whoa, this is better than my shitty job.
That was a problem.
Yeah.
That was definitely a problem, and that made me rethink universal basic income.
What, like pro or negative?
Well, I used to be pro. I used to be super pro universal basic income, and my thought was, if you give people
I thought it was, I mean, I can only speak from like, this isn't like, you know, a study, but it helped the people I knew where it was like, it didn't, like, they didn't get lazy. They were just like, holy shit,
That's
I can pay
unemployment.
my bills.
That's unemployment.
Yeah.
I'm talking about universal basic
Gotcha,
income.
gotcha.
So universal basic income would be that everybody gets a certain amount a month.
Yeah.
Like $1,200.
Yeah.
And the idea is you never have to worry about food. You never have to worry about shelter.
Yeah.
And now you can pursue whatever you want to do.
Right.
Part of me thinks there's going to be a bunch of people that never do anything. They're just going to live off
Probably.
that 12.
Which is fine though, right?
Kind of. But
Is
if that wasn't available to them, would they figure out a path in life? And how many people get tripped up by winning a lottery ticket? Like, don't all of them get tripped up by winning the lottery? Doesn't everybody get tripped up?
It's pretty high, yeah. Unless
So-
you do certain things.
There's a human psychology aspect to giving people free shit that I don't think is beneficial. I just don't think it's beneficial. I don't think there's anything wrong with having a social safety net.
Right.
I feel like welfare is important. I feel like food stamps are
Yeah,
important.
healthcare.
I feel like healthcare is important. All those things are very important. And education. I fully
Yeah,
support that.
okay.
I mean, if you're going to use taxes, I fully support
Yeah,
support
let's do
using
that instead of tanks.
Yeah, well, that's the best one. But I kind of think that people need to do things. And I kind of think giving people free money is a bad idea.
Yeah, I mean, I think given those two options, I much prefer a social safety net for that reason. Where it's like,
100%.
It's like even if your job is kind of bullshit, if your basic human needs are taken care of, you can you still go to work and make ends meet. But it's like if you get sick, you're not worried that you're gonna you bankrupt. Your life's over. If you
But
can,
the thing is, you're not contributing if you're not doing anything.
Right.
Right. If you're just taking that $1,200 and you're just living and you're not contributing at all, you're literally a sponge. Like I think
But I do
people
wonder-
would feel better if they had something that they did that gave them a sense of purpose.
Right.
Whatever it is.
Yeah,
and I
yeah.
think that trying to find that thing and be successful at that thing is a part of the process that everybody has to go through to find themselves. And you deny someone that thing if you just give them free money. Now,
Sure,
I'm not saying that you shouldn't be able to give money to unemployed single mothers,
Right, disabled
people that get
people,
fucked
whatever,
over
yeah.
by society.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
you get fired. You have a monthly nut. Like, I think we should have a social safety
Yeah,
net.
yeah.
I think it's important. But I also think if you just gave people money, a
No,
lot
you're
of
probably-
people wouldn't do shit.
Yeah,
More
no,
people
definitely.
than would. The rare person that even with that free money says, I'm going to take this fucking money,
Yeah.
and this is what I'm going to spend half of it, and I'm going to invest the other half, and
Yeah,
I'm going to
yeah,
get a
yeah.
job as well.
Right,
and I'm going to go out there and I'm going to fucking make something.
Yeah.
There's some of those people, but those are super rare.
No, you're right about that.
It's human nature, man.
And I think I prefer what you're saying is like, yeah, let's cover our bases, which we don't do right now.
Right.
And I think the thing that I think just as likely for if you give somebody free money, they're not going to do shit. We're fucking trapped in this opposite thing where it's like people have to fucking work hard as shit to barely make it.
Yeah.
Where it's like that zapping all that human potential too, because those people are just surviving at shit that they don't have time to fucking because they
100%.
just have to make rent. Fucking everything is
Right.
more expensive.
Right.
You don't have any time to fucking. And I do agree with you that kind of the middle ground is get their basic needs met and then let them be able to work, but not have to fucking work, 60 hours a week or whatever the
Right.
fuck, or work 40 hours, but it's grueling for less pay. Like, because you do need that time. You need that space. I think
If
you're
you want to
absolutely
get
correct.
ahead and you want to figure your own path in life, you got to have some time.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
going to either cut into your sleep or it's going
Yeah.
to cut into your social life. It's going to cut but you're going to need some time.
Totally.
And that's the one benefit for a motivated person for universal basic income.
Right.
But my feeling was when I watched everybody during the pandemic when they were all getting unemployment, how many people did want to go back to work? They just wanted that free money. I was like,
Yeah.
ooh, this is wild.
I mean, but some of that also is that they were like, because my friends were like, what the fuck? This is like like I'm making less money working hard as fuck on what unemployment pays. Like this is what the government thinks you barely need to subsist. And when I go back to work, I make less than this and I work fucking hard as shit. I mean, it's also a problem of like, I think people also saw in that moment how mistreated they were being and how underpaid they were being a lot of the time, where it's like this low pay, which it wasn't that much money, right?
Well, they started ramping up pay at a lot of places after the pandemic.
Yeah.
They ramped up pay everywhere. Like they advertise like high pay, like places like McDonald's.
Yeah.
Like what does McDonald's pay now? I think it pays like $18 an hour or something like
Right.
that. Or 20. How much does McDonald's pay?
I think it depends.
I was
city to
walking
city.
through Buc-ee's yesterday.
Buc-ee's is famous for
Buc-ee's
paying
is a
well.
shit. I was looking at like if you're a manager, you make $250,000 a year.
pretty sick.
I'm
And
like,
probably,
damn.
and probably the only place where that's kept pace with inflation.
It still says
Yeah.
pretty low, depending on.
Well, yeah,
Oh,
see,
2110,
7 to
2120, 725 is in like Dothan, Alabama.
Yeah, but I wonder. Even this. I
Oh,
wonder.
Austin, Texas.
Yeah.
725 to 20. Boy, that's a big jump.
That's probably like
So
manager
that's
gets
3 times
21.
as much.
Yeah, but dude,
That's a cashier.
Yeah.
That's what a cashier makes. Not a manager.
that's good.
The manager gets double that. Son.
Yeah, but even the place where they're ramping up pay, I wonder what that even is in comparison to inflation from that same job in 1970.
Good question.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or and then
1255.
National
Yeah.
average.
Did you see that video? There's a video that was going around today of people in Chicago.
That guy swears an amazing amount. Incredible. Wow. Like every other word. It was so amazing. I used to talk like that until YouTube got a hold of me. Now I don't talk like that anymore. And so just the whole thing. People will find purpose. People will also do nothing. It's very true. But I think it's different with the situation he's talking about. I think a lot of people years ago when they were getting their payments and they wanted that free money is because that was a massively stressful time. You didn't even know if you were supposed to go outside. I think it's a little different. So now it's like they've told you not to go outside. You're not going outside. You're getting money. You're living. You're good. And now they're like, okay, go outside. And it was like a lot of people were like, I think it was better because, there's all this risk outside. You told me there's so much risk outside. And I think it's a little different. I think there was a big fear factor that jumps in there. No pun intended with Joe Rogan. But there was a huge fear factor there. I think that there's 2 sides to it. I've been the person. This is actually my story. I've been on welfare. I got 2 welfare payments. I got 2 of them. Okay? And I kind of did what Joe Rogan was talking about, because when it came to being able to get a job, it was the first time for some reason I couldn't get a job. I was going around with my resume. I was going everywhere. I would find the districts, all the warehouses, and I was going and going and going, and nobody was calling back. And I was just like, I have nothing. I gotta do something. So I got 1 payment. I got the next payment. I was still going out trying to get a job. I was doing the real thing. I wasn't somebody who just sat at home. I got a job, and I started doing the calculation between what I was getting from welfare and the job. And as soon as I remember sitting there doing the calculations and going, wait a second. No. Go work. You have to go work. It's better to be outside. Go work. Like I need some kind of responsibility. So I just dashed it all away, went to work, was making a little less, maybe the same, and having to work really hard for it. But for me, it just made sense because I saw this creeping addiction where I was like, oh, I'm just going to be able to stay at home and do nothing, and I won't even have to look for a job, and I can milk the system. And I didn't want to do that. So I went and got a job. And I understand that some people, and I don't think it's as many as people think. I think if you took away the stress, again, I bring up the stress because that's a big thing, and I still deal with financial stress, and I'm pretty sure almost everybody watching this is dealing with financial stress. It's hard. I think if you lighten that on a lot of people, I don't think they will set into this mode of staying home. A lot will, but I think there is a lot of people who will be like, I'm free to try the thing now. Before, I had the excuse of I need an extra $500,000, not 500,000, $500 to $1,000. Now I actually have that. I'm going to try the thing. I'm going to try it. I'm going to see what happens, because if it doesn't work, it's fine. The next month I will just get paid again. And now I get to actually try things. I think there's a lot of people who really want to do that. And I could just be optimistic. I don't think most people are lazy. I don't have that mindset towards people. I don't think that I'm someone special because I learned how to use cameras and lights and all this stuff, learned how to use a computer, even though I didn't know how. I don't think I'm a special person. I think that anybody, if you give them the tools and the time, most importantly, the time, I think we could really astound ourselves with the things that we can learn and the things that we can do in life, you know? So I'm up in the air about it. I think you could give it to people and a lot of people might sit around, but I really do think those same people that are sitting around will eventually go, okay, I have the time to like do some stuff. I'm going to go for a walk. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. You know, I can invest in a thing. Yeah, I have the money. I can invest in something. I can learn about investing. I can learn about this. I can get a camera. I can use that camera. I can get a gig. I think there's so many people that have that inside of them, the thing that they've always wanted to do, and the constant pressure of living check to check keeps them down. It keeps them so they don't try the thing because it's too scary. It's too scary to try a thing and then the next month you cannot pay your rent and you don't have food and now your water's off and your electricity's off. It's too scary. But if all of a sudden that's taken care of, I think there's a lot of people who will try things. I think there are more geniuses in the world than we will ever know because of the way things are set up. And I'm not going into some kind of socialist talk or anything. I think people should have to work hard for it. I think it makes the most sense. I've listened to a lot of Jim Rohn and, you know, a lot of people in the motivation space, a lot of wealthy people. Like you see that, you know, in becoming, say, a millionaire. And that might be far off for myself and many people, but I think in terms of becoming a millionaire, it's not just the money that you get, it's the person you become on the way to becoming that millionaire, you know? And I think that you can put any number on that, you know, 100,000 or even just a steady income that is from your own business. You know, the pursuit of that is what changes you and morphs you and makes you grow. So it's a hard thing. So but here's the other thing, right? Some people would just sit around and do nothing. Some people would. I don't know. And then now there's another episode where Joe Rogan was talking with Andrew Yang. If you remember him from about 4 or 5 years ago, he's a presidential candidate and he was big on universal basic income. And he said it would cost the country $1.8 trillion and that about 400 billion of that money would go back into the economy and it wouldn't be as bad as everybody thinks. I don't know. And then he also said there's a lot of people who are truck drivers and, you know, warehouse workers and stuff like that. And those people have a very low percentage of being able to be trained to do new things. I think that's wrong. I think people, and it's because I am one of those guys. I am the guy that's working at a warehouse and life sucks. And then you turn to me and say, hey, you want to get trained in a thing? And it's like, no, I don't. I want to sit. And I think that's another reason why a lot of people would sit around for a little while, because they'd be like, I've been so stressed having to deal with this money stress that I don't want to do anything for a little while. I want to sit. I want to feel okay for a little while. And I think people have that right too. I don't know. It's a very interesting thing. I don't know what would happen if we did universal basic income, but honestly, my optimism says that there would be a tremendous amount of people that would become happy, not because they get free money and they get to sit around, but because they now get to explore the things that they've always wanted to explore. I think there's so many people. Early in this podcast, I would always talk about, if you have that thing inside of you, you should try it. You should go for it. If you have that business you've always wanted to start, you should go for it. And it's so hard to do it. It's easy for me to say it, but it's so hard to do it. And if somebody just had that cushion, that financial cushion, they'd probably be more likely to do it. I don't know, because I've been that person. I've been the person where it's like, this is such a long shot. I'm using a much better camera now, but I took everything to buy the stuff that I had. Everything. I spent all my money, all of it. It was so scary. And I wouldn't suggest people do that, but at the same time, it's like, if you're willing to work, you're willing to grind, it can turn into something so incredible. So I don't know, man. I think again, the 2020 money that came around, I think there was a lot of fear around that money, and I don't think it's fair to judge society on how they acted when they got that money. There was a massive amount of fear being thrown their way. I think if it's just a regular time in history where we don't have that type of fear pushed on us, I think people would flourish, But then also it's like, where does that money come from? And, it's just a whole thing. But the optimism in me says that it would be a good thing in the end. Because for me, when I achieved my financial cushion, I went and did good things. And I don't think I'm special. I think there's a lot of people who go and do good things. I think there's few people who are watching this right now who don't have a good heart that would go and do good things if they had the ability and the chance to. I think a lot of people in society would. But those elites, the way they think of us, and I'm not calling Joe Rogan an elite, but I don't know. Those elites, they make things a little hard. And when you make things really hard and really stressful for a person, you change who they are. There's a lot of people with a lot of financial stress who aren't really the person that they could be because of that stress. You know what I mean? I don't know. Tell me what you think about universal basic income. I don't know. Because it's so likened to welfare, and there's so many people that milk welfare. So many people, they just milk it, and they will not go to work because they're just like, nah, I want the free money, and I don't want to do much, and I want to hang out, and I want to smoke weed. I don't know. I pulled myself away from it, but I don't know. Maybe I'm super special. Maybe. Anyways, guys, like the episode, subscribe, and think about universal basic income. And also, this episode is 2072. This is a great episode if you just want to listen to Joe Rogan just talk with somebody about absolute craziness. The stuff that they touch on in this, they have a whole 20 minutes where they are talking about disgusting stuff. Just disgusting, gross studies. It's just all funny. That Stavros, that guy, he's actually pretty hilarious. Swears a whole lot. So if you're not into that, forget about it. But if you're into old school Joe Rogan, just sitting there, he's smoking, and they're just talking a whole bunch of mess, you'll like it a lot. Anyways, guys, I'm out.